very good morning to one and all present here. I welcome you all to Skilling on Saturdays. Today we have with us a very esteemed guest, Tanvi Bhatt, who is a personal branding ambassador, you can say. And I would like to introduce Tanvi as she has been known for being a thought leader in a foray of personal branding and thought leadership in India for last 11 years. Tanvi has helped global business leaders and entrepreneurs build a powerful personal brand impact and legacy. Tanvi is India's youngest Stevie Award winning entrepreneur, a columnist with the Economic Times, a global keynote speaker, and a 3 times TEDx speaker. Tanvi has addressed over 1 lakh leaders at over 400 events for global brands like LinkedIn, Deloitte, KPMG, Bank of America, Pfizer, Capgemini, Infosys, Times Group, Mahindra Group, Tata Group, Reliance, to name a few. Tanvi is an extremely featured expert across international media channels such as Times of India. It's a repeat. She believes that in today's times one needs to rise above vanilla leadership aspirations to manifest truly transcendental thought leadership inspired by deep spiritual intelligence and wisdom to truly make an impact on our society. Her philosophy of spiritual thought leadership weaves in her passion of building personal legacies that outlive us, as well as her purpose of celebrating the spiritual journey we human beings are on a unique stream of consciousness. Tanvi is also a founder of a brand new spiritual wellness startup called Soma, where she is curating a suite of high vibrational spiritual well-being products that are focused on helping you optimize your spiritual wellness and build a more conscious, intentional, and thriving lifestyle. So that was small bit about Tanvi. We welcome you, Tanvi.
Thank you so
And
much,
we would
Shwani.
yeah, and we would like to hear the power of influence with you.
Certainly. Good morning, everyone. When Shwani reached out to me for the very first time that we're doing this and would you be a part of it, I was in shock and awe that a group of leaders would get up alive and kicking on a Saturday morning at 7 a.m. to join a skilling session like this. But here we are a month later, and I'm very grateful, Shivani, for the warm invitation and the opportunity to share my thoughts and insights with this esteemed group of professionals that you've so brilliantly curated and brought together for such a noble mission. So, kudos to you for pulling this off. And of course, the whole team, I'm sure it takes a village to do something like this together just out of passion.
Thank you.
Great. So, I know it's a Saturday morning, but I would love to speak to people and not just pictures and names. So I humbly request each one of you to turn on your cameras if possible for you at all, so we can actually have a conversation because I would like this session to be interactive. Yep. So that's just my request to each and every one of you. If possible, please to turn on your cameras so it feels like a conversation and not a monologue. Okay. So, as professionals that you all have been probably carrying out your respective businesses and practices for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And in this journey, you all would have realized that it's easier to lead when you are able to inspire people, to influence people, and leave an impact on their lives, both personal, professional, and of course, at a wider array, social impact as well. But over the last few years, haven't you realized that, the dynamics of leadership, the dynamics of business, the dynamics of building your presence in the ecosystem just so that you are visible, you're valuable, and you matter, have evolved drastically. I like to think of it honestly as a pre-COVID and a post-COVID impact, because a true stratospherical rise in the world of digital influence happened post-COVID. Pre-COVID, most of us were on digital platforms, using social media perhaps for personal usage. But if you start noticing, more and more leaders started building a conscious personal brand presence, voice, and footprint to wield their influence, to build an identity, to be seen as a thought leader or an influencer in the industry post COVID. Today, I want to speak to you about the journey of building that level of influence in your industry, not just from a digital perspective, but to understand the foundations of building influence in a digital age today. What goes into wielding that level of influence? And it really does not matter whether it is online or offline. Because today, the way the world is evolving is the world has gone online first. So your cell phone or your screens today are your gateway to the world and the world's gateway to you. And this is what it means to lead like a thought leader in the world today. You've heard of a lot of terms being thrown around nowadays. That person is a LinkedIn influencer, that person is a YouTube influencer, what a thriving creator economy we are part of. That person is an Instagram influencer because they're able to convince people to follow them, to buy from them, etc., etc. But I implore you right now to think about it. What is influence? And answer that question while we are at it. According to you, what is influence? I'm going to quickly scan the chat box for any inputs and insights that people share with me right now. According to you guys, what is influence?
Impacting others.
Impacting others, okay? Just drop it in the chat box if mics and cameras are not possible right now for you. The ability to convince others. Kalpana says impact others. Absolutely. So for the longest time, I understood influence from a very egocentric lens, that it is to get others to do what you want them to do. Now, that could have multiple ramifications. It could be positive, negative, or neutral as well. And that's the whole journey of leadership. What kind of an influence you build on people's life to ensure that they do execute the tasks that are in the greater good for the growth of the organization, the business, the practice, but ultimately you asking them to do something which they may or may not want to do. That has been my lens of looking at influence for the longest time. And boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. Over the last few years of learning from some of the most inspirational and influential leaders in the world, my understanding and perspective of influence and the power it has in our lives has completely shifted 360 degrees. Today, especially in the so-called age of digital influencers, it becomes imperative for each one of us to understand the distinction between being a so-called influencer to being a true thought leader in your industry. And then eventually building your personal brand and leading like a thought leader. So, a follow-up question on my previous question, friends. Who has been able to influence you? If you go back and reflect on a couple of milestone moments of your life where you received positive influence from someone around you. Could be a peer, could be a friend, could be a mentor, could be a professor, could be a colleague, could be a client, could be your spouse as well. Who has influenced you immensely? And what value proposition they brought into your life that shifted your life for so much better. Think about it. And then ask yourself, the person who had such a remarkable influence on my life, was that person a doer or a dealer? Now, what I mean over here when I say a dealer is that in the age of influencers that we are in today, most of these so called Instagram and LinkedIn influencers, maybe not so much on LinkedIn, but YouTube influencers are product peddlers, is what I like to call it. They're just trying to sell you something and they're calling themselves influencers for whatever reason. But a true person who's really had influence on you has possibly never tried to sell you on anything. They've added some insights to your life during critical moments of need. They've given you advice, they've shared knowledge, they've shared wisdom. They've given you a rich, enriching perspective of seeing a situation in a brand new light that you would never have been able to if not for that person. You've shared stories of their lives, perhaps, that have helped you grow yourself and outgrow yourself, more importantly, as well. That, for me, is a true nature of influence, of changing someone's life, of inspiring them to be better, to do better. And that is the perspective of influence I would like to leave you with today. To aspire to build an influence of that fabric. We've been doing that consciously, unconsciously, all our lives. But now, how do we do it consciously, proactively, and strategically in a digital age so that our circle of influence is not limited to 100 people? It can reach 100,000 people. So, the journey I'm going to take you on today is to help you understand how to take your influence, which is absolutely there, on a circle of people that you live, work, and play with. Take it to a platform and medium which has the potential to amplify your influence, to position you in your industry as the go to expert, as a wise leader, as a thought leader, and to co create the future of your profession, practice, industry, society, the way you envision what the world should look like. Now, this is the difference between a leader and a thought leader. Most of us have been leaders all our life, or we've evolved into being leaders because we want to pay it forward. We want to help our peers, our team members to become leaders so we become more independent. We've taken roles of leadership at different stages of our life. Leaders have been known in the industry to have a very critical skill of storytelling, which is what helps them to lead effectively. Ask yourself, just reflect with me. When was the last time someone came to you or you were attending a session like this where you heard a story that really shifted your life? Or how many stories you've shared with your peers and industry leaders that have helped them see things differently in their life, or lead better, or perform better? So, the beautiful distinction I'm trying to make today is that while it's essential to have some amazing storytelling skills to build influence, true influence is not built only by storytelling. I'll repeat it. True influence is not built only by storytelling. It is built with the philosophy of story shaping. And that is what thought leaders do brilliantly compared to just another leader. But before we deep dive into thought leadership and story shaping and how that helps you build influence, I would love to understand, again, quickly from the room, please, what is thought leadership according to you? Do you believe you're practicing thought leadership in your work, in your industry today, based on your understanding of thought leadership? I'd love to understand what does the room think.
Creating an impact with your thinking.
Making an impact with your thinking, okay. Who is a thought leader in the industry, friends? Can you name a few thought leaders that you look up to that have inspired you or impacted you, Shivani, like you said?
There are definitely many.
Tell me a few.
You are one of them. And then Abhijit sir is there.
Of course. Oh, Dr. Velumani, that's a lovely name.
Whom else I can see in the room?
Great, Sailesh. You're already an influencer and on your way to becoming a thought leader. That's amazing. Dr. R.A. Mashikar, I'm not aware of him, unfortunately. Okay. Any other authors, global experts, speakers that come to your mind as thought leaders? Narayan and Sudhamurthy, absolutely. Any peers from your industry that you can name? Simon Sinek, absolutely, Manoj. Great, great example, Simon Sinek. Tony Robbins, Kata. Yeah, thank you. So these guys have been known as global authorities, subject matter experts, amazing authors who've taken what life has taught them, who've taken their passions to deep dive into topic, theme, subject matter expertise that they were curious about. They've distilled their insights, experiments, experiences, perspectives, and all those things to create their thought leadership. Now, their thought leadership is nothing but how each of these brilliant leaders look at a subject matter from their unique lens and how they share those insights with the world in a way that has not happened before. Agree? That is what makes them so unique. That is what makes their work, their books, their thoughts so different, so inspiring, and obviously, more importantly, valuable to our lives. They're not trying to influence you, they're just sharing what they know very well that's worked for them and millions of others to hopefully help you do the same. Right. And that has been the true metal of a thought leader in the history of our generation. They have shaped stories and lives of people by sharing all these things that we discussed. But more importantly, if you really notice, most of these thought leaders have had a story to tell because the story of their personal disruption of how they learned to do something better than what they used to do before, or how the industry experiments and experiences shaped their life and had them hone their craft, hone their knowledge and wisdom about practicing their work in the industry changed. So, thought leaders have to be storytellers, like leaders naturally, but more importantly, they have to be story shapers because they are shaping the story of the entire collective of humanity for the day after tomorrow today. So, I believe that for each one of us, at least from the lens of professional lives that we live, that we are here to upskill for, a professional influence begins with a personal disruption, with the stories of a personal disruption. And that is what helps us build the level of influence that can enable and inspire more and more lives to learn something from our own journeys, take what resonates with them, make it stick, and change their lives. Right? So that was the context of why build influence at all. the fabric of influence, how to think not just as an aspiring influencer, but an aspiring thought leader. Now, let's deep dive into how to build your influence and lead like a thought leader. So I was really thinking when, this conversation started with Shawnee, that what would I like to speak about to an amazing ensemble of CAs like y'all to make it resonate with y'all, and what is the nature or fabric of influence. So I thought, let's talk to y'all in the language y'all best understand, which is the balance sheet of influence. Okay. So I've identified the assets and liabilities that go into the creation or building of your influence. Now, I've touched base on a couple of these assets in my conversation so far. So I would like to see what has stuck with you or what really stood out to you. What do you believe, friends, could be the assets of building influence? I obviously don't need to tell you what assets are, but in the journey of building influence, based on whatever you heard me say up till now, what do you think are your personal and unique assets that can be used to build influence? I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
People.
People, okay. Your assets are things that you will utilize, right? You'll leverage, you'll capitalize on to build influence. Support and trust of your peers, I'm assuming, Deepak, is what you're referring to over here. Deeper knowledge and learn insights. Bang on. You got two of them very right. Great job, Salish. Knowledge. Yes, Kevin, knowledge. And more importantly, willingness to help others and pass that knowledge on without expecting anything in return for that. Absolutely. So I love it. You guys have understood the pulse of what I'm referring to as assets of building influence. The way I look at it, there are four E's, E's for building your assets. And these are the foundational blocks of influencing others. The first is your deep subject matter expertise. If you're seen or perceived as a leader who has deep domain expertise, you will easily influence others to do what you want them to do for their higher good, hopefully, not for your higher good. The second E is experiments. The experiments you've done in your life, personally, professionally, spiritually as well. How that has taught you some profound lessons. Experiments that led to success and failure, both. The third E is how you've evolved and accumulated wisdom, insights, differentiated perspectives, how your perception of viewing, processing things, situations, people in your life has evolved over a lifetime of 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And today, because of a combination of all these three E's, your expertise, your experiments, and your evolution, how you express yourself to the world. These four E's are the building blocks of influence. Because if you don't have clarity on each of these, if you don't interconnect each of these in your communication, internally in the organization, externally in the industry, online, it doesn't matter what platform medium it is anymore. When you're deeply aware of your expertise, how it impacts your target audience, your experiments, how it inspires and influences people to grow faster, how you've evolved and how you wish to pass it on and pay it forward, your journey, your experiences, your wisdom, your knowledge, your insights. Those are the building blocks of influence. Or else, what are you really going to influence with? Correct. You will be able to influence people when you have something of value to share with them. And these are the elements of creating value in someone's life. So if I have to tell you some tangible assets, it would be your knowledge, your wisdom, your insights about your industry, your perspectives about situations that have happened, are happening, or will happen, how you think differently about those situations, and stories that you have to tell. And that is what I mean by saying that professional influence begins with personal disruption. And I saw a question also in the chat box. What is personal disruption? Somebody's asking. So, personal disruption, friends, is how you consciously choose to completely transform any aspect of your life that you were very comfortable doing for the longest time, but you realized it just doesn't work anymore. It could be a mindset, it could be a habit, it could be the way you practice your business, it could be a skill that you've been petrified of learning. For example, public speaking. And that's an example I love to give all over again because most of us are terrified of public speaking. But there comes a point in time in all of our lives when what we have to offer is so much and so valuable. And if we don't stand up, speak up, share our thoughts on public platforms, we are doing gross injustice to our spiritual destiny because we are not passing on our legacy of knowledge and wisdom that's been gifted to us in this journey of life. That's what I meant by starting your journey of building influence with your stories of personal disruption, of outgrowing yourself, of elevating any area of your life, personal, professional, spiritual, social, and of transcending an older version of you to something that you know you're meant to evolve into. Okay? So these are the aspects of what assets of influence you should be focused on consciously crafting to pay it forward as value. More importantly, as unique value proposition that only you bring on the table. Because imagine all these four E's that we spoke about your deep expertise, experiments, evolution as a person and a human being, and your expression. They are going to be so unique to you. And when you bring them together with your knowledge, wisdom, insights, perspective, stories to tell, that is when you start building deep influence on people. Now let's look at the opposite side of your balance sheet, which are your liabilities. And pardon my ignorance, maybe if there is on certain semantics or technicalities. But yes, this is just to get you all to resonate with how do you think about building influence today and how you should go about the journey and the joy of leading others. Now, when we talk about liabilities, okay, I've identified two aspects to liabilities. First, and the most important aspect is your mindset. It's how you are trained to think on an autopilot mode about so many things in life. And unless we consciously become aware of that mindset and how that is inhibiting us from living up to our potential, from doing everything we want to do in our life, from doing or from following a path that you know is your true calling. You know, all of us have that one silent whisper, which starts with a whisper and eventually becomes a scream in the depth of our soul that is calling you to do something more than what you're doing today. I'm just going to pause over here and ask this profound question to everyone in the room. How many of y'all have had those silent whispers or screams now, depending on where you are in your life, that have called you to do more and be more? I would love to know. I would love to know that I'm not the only insane person on the planet who has those silent screams. How many of y'all have had those callings to do more than what you're doing in your life today?
I hope everyone.
And I would love to know if you have that, what is that? Because, those silent whispers, those nudges that come to us are actually indications. I call them spiritual breadcrumbs to follow a trail, follow a path to our highest destiny we are meant to accomplish. Yeah. And when you pay attention to those silent whispers and screams, that's when you are leading down the highest path of your spiritual destiny, friends. So please, since many of you all have said, yes, we have it, I implore you to now take it seriously, follow it instead of just shoving it under the rug like we always do. Okay. Coming back to mindset, friends. Mindset for me has been the biggest roadblock of my personal transcendence because we were trained to think in certain ways. We were conditioned to think in certain ways, which have inhibited our highest potential materialization, in my humble opinion, at least. And there's an aspect of ourself that we should transcend, especially now at this stage and age of our lives, because we've become more aware of who we are. And more importantly, who we are not. Things that we were made into because of it being acceptable for the society, because of it being perceived as normal in the society. So there are four aspects of yourself, the mindset that I'm talking about, that I want you to now transcend to be able to, mark my words, to be able to truly think like a thought leader, lead like a thought leader, and follow the spiritual breadcrumbs that we spoke about in your journey of manifesting your highest potential and spiritual destiny. So, what are those four dimensions? It was in the word that I gave you itself. The four dimensions are SELF. When I said you have to transcend yourself, SELF, friends, is an acronym over here. Okay. S stands for social shame. So many of us have not followed our passions or dreams or taken decisions in our life because we are so worried and we are so imprisoned in the illusion of social shame. कि लोग क्या कहेंगे? Imagine how life would have been different if you would have not held yourself back from doing things, but you didn't do because you were worried of social awkwardness, embarrassment, judgment, critique, ridicule, so on and so forth. And if you don't transcend that today, what's the point of having the awareness of it being an illusion? You're told and you're made to feel and believe that you are not good enough. You cannot do that. You're not cut out to do that. You're not meant to do that. You felt that you should not do that at your stage in life. So many conditions have happened which has given rise to this illusion of social shame. Now it's time to transcend it. E from SELF stands for your ego. Things you don't do in your life just because you're driven by ego. Things you do in your life because you're driven by ego. When you start taking decisions in your life from an ego lens, I don't need to tell you how downhill life goes from there. But imagine on the same parallel side, if you've taken decisions from a soul lens, from a conscious lens, how uphill the life has gone from there and how life has shifted beautifully, not only for you, but for all the stakeholders of that situation. Many times we don't get out there and create opportunities for us because we are driven by ego. But if those opportunities were to come to us on our doorstep, we would happily take them. Why? Something to think about. L in SELF, friends, is your limits, or again, illusions of limits. Again, same example of public speaking. We believe we can't speak in public because we've not done it. Simple. Anything that you believe is a limit is a perception of limit because you've possibly not done it at all or enough, and you think you're not good at it. And there's so many things in your life that you've not done enough and were not good at it, but now you possibly excel at that. Once upon a time, you didn't know how to manage and magically correct balance sheets also. But you do that today. And you could do that in your sleep. So there are no limits except illusions of limits you've imposed on yourself because you believe you can't do it or you just haven't done it before. Imagine if you're able to transcend that mindset that, oh, just because I have not done it before, it's not a limit. It's more importantly an adventure to learn something new. And if there's one skill that I would implore you and really beg of you to learn is the art of speaking. Because that's something I have been learning for 20 years of my life and it's transformed who I am as a person and the so-called influence or the impact I'm able to have in people's lives. Just to express myself the way I do. And finally, F in SELF stands for fears. There is no human alive that doesn't have the fear of stage. Even I do. After speaking for 11 years professionally and learning speaking for 20 years, I still have stage fear. I still get nervous and anxious before every stage after grace. I was anxious for today morning also. Why? Because I'm not afraid of the judgment or the fear of ridicule or criticism. I'm anxious because I want to show up and add as much value as I can. And I just want to do a really good job in respecting your time and leaving behind something that's helped me enrich my life and become the person and professional I am today. So that is my anxiety. Everyone has different reasons of anxiety. But fears are those things that are going to hold you back. And in fact, I got this beautiful realization just a couple of weeks ago that when you look at your fears, and I want you to do this exercise, friends, only then you can transcend this, right? When you're aware of it, then you can consciously work one day at a time of transcending these SELF dimensions. Your fears are knocking on your doorsteps because when you're going to come out on the other side of fears, that is where your spiritual breadcrumbs are waiting for you to walk upon your destiny that you're avoiding. So, whatever you're really afraid of is exactly what you need to transcend in your life to realize your higher purpose. Think about it from that perspective. And then you'll see how easier it becomes for you to face your fears, tackle them, overcome them, and transcend them eventually. So, this is a mindset. And the reason I'm talking so much about a mindset of a thought leader who truly desires to build an influence in the world is when you are not holding yourself back because of these old, dusty mindsets of being worried about social shame, living from ego lenses, worried about your limits or illusions of limits, and being held back by your fears. I promise you, you will become the most dangerous person in the room. Why? The most dangerous person in the room is not literally dangerous. Metaphorically, you're the most dangerous person in the room because you will not get affected or impacted with what people think, how they perceive you, how they receive you, what they possibly will talk about you. You've transcended those old hallmarks of social shame, egos, limits, fears, anxiety, and you can actually live life with absolute liberation to do the work you want to do. And this is what thought leaders do. They practice strategic non attachment. I'll repeat thought leaders practice strategic non attachment to the outcomes of the work that they're committed to doing. And when you do that, is when you truly build unrivaled influence because you're doing it for the sake of your karma. Okay. So, in liabilities, if you don't care of all these aspects of your mindset, you are going to not be doing justice to your true dharma of this life that you have. Period. I'll leave it at that. The second aspect of your liabilities, friends, also is your skill set. Correct? I mean, it's amazing to have events like these curated by extraordinary thinkers and community builders like Shivani. And you guys showing up, more importantly, to level up, upskill yourself, and learn something new. So I truly I'm very, very proud of every person in the room who's committed to leveling up. But what are the skill sets that I believe could be potential liabilities in your journey of building influence? Let me read the room again. Let me ask you this question before telling you what I think. What skill sets do you believe, or lack of skill sets, okay, are going to be a challenge in the journey of building yourself as a thought leader, as a speaker, as a change maker, and building influence on people? What skill sets that you don't have today, perhaps, that you should have in your awareness? Any thoughts on that? What skill sets would be required for you to build deep, lasting influence that is amplified?
Convincing somebody.
Convincing someone, is that what you said? I couldn't hear you very clearly.
Yes, yes.
Convincing.
Convincing your team, convincing your clients, convincing
Okay,
your authorities. And
lovely. Convincing people, ability to communicate and listen. Lovely. Okay, great. Now we're talking. Amazing. Passion to learn and express. Thank you. So, yes, all this and more, friends, skill sets today that you require in the digital era that we live in go beyond your personal characteristics and traits also. And I'll leave three skill sets with you that I think if you start working on consciously will really help you outshine a lot of peers in the industry, because let's face it, most of them are not doing this. Okay. So a major liability of a skill set to have today is have zero digital or minimal digital or social media presence for yourself. Just because I don't need social media for my business, if that's a mindset, it's a liability. So learning how to build your presence, your brand, how to have a digital footprint on and off social media is extremely important today, especially you want to amplify your presence, your voice, let your thoughts reach more and more people, because that's how you influence people. Second liability I think you all have struggled with is social anxiety, or, you know, like I said earlier, glossophobia. Glossophobia is nothing but the fear of public speaking. A third liability, I believe, but most of you all may not really have this, in case you all do, networking and strategic networking with people, both online and offline. A lot of us still don't think it's important for us to reach out consciously to our existing networks and tap into their second or third degree of network and connections. But imagine how many opportunities would open up for you to elevate your brand, to reach more people, to be able to touch more lives, personally and professionally, both. And the last liability, I believe, that is a result of the industry that we are in is the art of personal branding, of building yourself as a thought leader in the industry. Unfortunately, these are not the skills that were ever taught to us. So it becomes our prerogative to learn these skills ourselves so we are able to do justice to our assets, which is your expertise, the experiments of your life, how you've evolved, bring in all that thing and express everything that you are. Okay. So that was all about assets and liabilities and how you should be aware of both of these aspects, because they are the building blocks to build influence in the industry. Second aspect now I'd love to speak to you all about today is how do you actually build influence? What really goes into building influence? To me, influence is a function of your authenticity. When you are aware of who you really are, you will be able to do justice to who you are as a person. You'll be able to do justice to your passions, your deepest values, your vision for your life and beyond, and your purpose. So self-awareness is stepping stone of building influence, because if you don't know who you are, what makes you tick, what makes you excited, what makes you infuriated, what difference you want to make, what is your higher purpose and calling, your spiritual breadcrumbs that we spoke about, how will you possibly put yourself out there in a way that is truly you? It's authentic. You're able to differentiate yourself from others. You're able to listen to the voice of your soul and pass on the stories, the insights, the wisdom that you are feeling called to do. Or just because you have so much of professional expertise to offer, forget about everything else. You've done so much in your career and life, and you have so much knowledge to pass it on. Awareness of your VPs is what we call it, your passions, values, vision, and purpose, is what will help you build influence with authenticity, because it will help you differentiate yourself from everyone else wanting to build influence and adding to the clutter and chaos in a very noisy digital world. So, authenticity is the first step of the ACE formula of building influence. ACE, the ACE formula. If you're not leading your voice with authenticity, you're just going to get lost, because you'll just try so hard to fit in and be just another corporate penguin out there instead of being a corporate unicorn, right? So, celebrating your authenticity, your uniqueness, your weirdness, your idiosyncrasies is so important in the journey of building your brand also. The second aspect of the ACE formula, C, is clarity on what you offer. Okay. And clarity on what you offer stems in from the vision also that you have for your life, where you want to go next, and what offerings are you bringing on the table, professional, personal, social, spiritual, to take your life to that next level. So, the three aspects of clarity you should have to be able to build influence is what you offer, what you're bringing on the table, what you're helping people to change, build, disrupt, transform, create. Your what next. Okay. Second is why now? You need to answer the question of why this is important for you to do now. Because if not now, when? 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, to a date and time which is not guaranteed for any of us? A very simple question is why wait and why not now? So answer that question to yourself if I've not already. That will help you get more clear about why do this at all. And the third, and a very important question, which most of us fail to offer because that lack of self awareness is stopping us, is why you? Why should people listen to you? Why should your voice matter? Or why does your voice matter? Why your thoughts matter? Yeah. So clarity of what you offer is a beautiful mosaic of what next, what offerings you're bringing on the table next for your ecosystem. Why now is the right time for you to do that, and for more importantly, them to follow you, your advice, your insights, your inputs to transform their lives. And why you? Why they should follow you? What is so unique about that perspective, voice that you have to share? And more importantly, where you're promising to take them, right? So you can do that unlike anyone else. So when you're clear about these things, it's easier to communicate these things to the world. And all this work happens when you do deep level of brand work, self-awareness, strategic self-reflection, when you learn how to think, how global thought leaders think before they put themselves out there in their journey of building their personal brand, building their identity, building their influence, and so on and so forth. And the third and the most important element of the ACE formula is expression. It's great if you have done all the introspection and self work and self awareness and self reflection, but if we pause there, if we don't take it to the next level and put our thoughts out there, if we don't express ourselves, whether it's via writing, whether it's via speaking, whether it's via mentoring, or the latest buzzword in the world today, podcasting. If you're not expressing yourself, how are you going to build influence? Influence is a transfer of value. You have to express yourself. Choose a modality and medium that excites you the most. Maybe speaking doesn't come to you naturally today, or it's a journey that you will have to learn the art of speaking to get there. But write short articles, posts on LinkedIn, off LinkedIn, in your industry journals, in newspapers, any media outlet. There are dozens of outlets today that you can write on and be known for your thought leadership on how you think differently about your industry, about anything else that matters to you. But expression is the most important entity or element of building influence. Without it, there's going to be no influence that you have on anyone. Okay? So that's ACE formula: authenticity, clarity of offer, and expression of who you really are. Right? And finally, I would like to really end this session with helping you to think like a thought leader, because it's easy to say that practice thought leadership, but it's equally difficult to practice thought leadership. And this is coming from someone who's been practicing thought leadership for like 11 years now, helping others practice thought leadership to create value proposition for their ecosystems, whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are an executive, whether you're a professional, whether you're an aspiring author, whether you're an aspiring speaker. If you're not creating thought leadership, you're not going to be able to differentiate your thoughts, your work, your art from your peers or others who are also playing a similar game. They may not be playing it strategically enough. They may not be playing with this level of self-awareness. They may be just employing a few tactics here and there. But the practice of thought leadership, like your practice, is a commitment, right? And I would like to talk to you about two things when I'm talking about how to think like a thought leader and eventually how to lead like a thought leader. The first aspect of thinking like a thought leader is to understand 3S of what goes into thought leadership. It's a strategic thinking. It's how you're thinking about your industry, what the industry is going to need day after tomorrow, being aware of that, having deep understanding of that, and creating offerings, which we spoke about earlier, clarity of what you offer, and creating offerings, value proposition, ideas, philosophies, products, services to help. Now, that doesn't have to be at a professional level only. It can be at a personal level, social level, spiritual level. It doesn't matter which level it has. But start thinking strategically about what is missing in the industry that you can sense, that you can envision that others can't. Okay? Then ask yourself, the second aspect or a dimension of your thought leadership is spiritual. Why do this at all? Go sit in silent reflections, contemplation, meditation, whatever you do, and ask that question to yourself. Why should I speak up? Why should I express my journey, my life, my story? Why bother? You get the answer. And you get clarity about your own karma and dharma in this life so that you are having a deep spiritual reason and compass, more importantly, to do this. Because if you're not being pulled spiritually to do this, life has enough and plenty of distractions to keep us occupied. With your why, your spiritual clarity will help you truly build your brand, your thought leadership, and your legacy of influence that will outlive you. Right? I mean, we human beings have what? 70 years average lifespan now, that boils down to 25,000 days of being alive on this planet. Ask yourself, do you want to just be alive and around for 25,000 days or build an identity, influence, and a legacy of your thoughts, of your ideas, of your stories, of your wisdom you've enriched the human collective with that will guaranteed outlive you for another 25,000 days or more? So ask yourself your why you want to do it at all. And then the third and important dimension of thought leadership is the how. How are you going to build your thought leadership, intellectual property, and present it to the world? You can do this offline in your real life. You can do it online to amplify your reach, presence, visibility, and circle of influence. But you cannot ignore the digital world today, especially if you're truly serious about touching and transforming more lives and truly building influence in a digital world and being known as a thought leader, change maker, disruptor, whatever terminology you fancy. Okay. Now, the second aspect of how to lead like a thought leader is you have to understand what type of a thought leader you wish to become. In the last 11 years of studying the most iconic thought leaders across the world and working with some of them is I've been able to understand there are three types of thought leaders. There are creators, there are curators, and there are collectors. Okay, let's talk about a little bit of each one of them before we wrap up. Thought leadership doesn't always mean that you have to create something brand new. Well, of course, you can be a creator like Tim Ferriss or Tony Robbins and come up with brand new ways of looking at things or solving problems or changing perspectives. If you can do that, if you can distill your life expertise, experiments, and express it creatively with a brand new idea and philosophy, brilliant. Creatorship is your type of thought leadership, perhaps. But if you can't, if you're someone who just loves to collect stories and pass it on, you are a collector. You can practice collectorship type of thought leadership. Great examples are there in the world today, like Vishay Lakhani of Mind Valley, or Lewis House, who runs a widely successful podcast called School of Greatness. These guys are collecting stories, knowledge, wisdom of iconic thought leaders across the world and helping their ecosystems and tribes to grow, evolve, and transform. That is also a practice of thought leadership. And the third element is curatorship, where you are so deeply involved in a study, in a practice, that you love to recreate it with your own deep perspectives. And two amazing examples I'll give you to understand is one is Dr. Radhakrishnan Pillai. You must have read one of his 25 odd books that he's written on Chanakya, or strategic thinking, or Anvikshiki, or Chanakya in daily life, or Seven Laws of Leadership from Chanakya's lens. So many books. What he's done, he's not created anything brand new. He's curated the knowledge and wisdom of Chanakya's work in Arthashastra and presented to the world today in an avatar that we understand. A second example is this amazing author, you must have be aware of him, possibly also Devdutt Patnaik. He does something very similar with knowledge and wisdom around mythology. He curates topics, ideas, themes, books, and makes it palatable and profitable for his audience today, who are modern management leaders and thinkers. So, these are the three types of thought leaderships that you can practice in your journey of leading like a thought leader. And it doesn't mean that if you're practicing one, you cannot ever evolve into the other. You can begin as a collector or a curator, and you can always evolve into creatorship also. There are no do's and don'ts. The canvas is unlimited based on your imagination. That is what I'd love to leave you with today. It doesn't matter which discipline of thought leadership you practice, as long as you're leading with an intention to build a legacy of knowledge, wisdom, and influence based on your beautiful journey and life that you've had. And there's something waiting inside you to be expressed just because you want to make life easier for someone else. And when you decide that your mess of your life, whatever it has been, becomes a message for someone else, that's when you'll truly build lasting influence as a thought leader or not, doesn't matter. right? And with that, I will pause. And I know some of you all will be having a lot of questions. I'm happy to take those questions now, Shivani, if you can kindly pull them up.
Wonderful, Tanvi's a lot of new insights, a lot of new terminology. I loved your concept of assets and liabilities of influence. These concepts, so all were wonderful, and especially the spiritual breadcrumbs. So thank you for bringing all those new concepts, and the floor is open for questions. So let us see what questions our audience has.
Ma'am, good
Yeah.
morning, ma'am. After
Yes, good
listening
morning.
1 hour, अच्छा लगा you, but आपने जो English use करी standard बहुत अच्छा लगा सुनने में. But आप जो इतना बोली है बहुत गंभीर, और even I don't have such English vocabulary for telling that, but I am happy to listen your thoughts because I don't know your age, ma'am. But as your analysis and thought process is excellent as per the listener's point of view, because I am listening from 8:05 to 7:05 to 60 minutes, I listened exact. So whatever analysis you are telling is super. But
Thank you.
as captains of thoughts, स्वीकृति, स्वीकार करना, वो जैसे कि अभी आपने बताया कि माइंडसेट, सपोज आपका माइंडसेट यदि सोशल मीडिया को एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर रहा है, तो इट्स योर लायबिलिटी, यू रिप्लाइड.
यस.
बट आपको मैं जस्ट ये बात शिवानी मैम को बोलूंगी कि आफ्टर यूट्यूब वगैरह जो आज जो एज अ प्रोफेशनल्स का जो लाइफ होता है प्रैक्टिकल फील्ड में, तो उसमें हम लोग चाहकर भी सीख नहीं पा रहे हैं सोशल मीडिया का यूज लेना. Instead, misusing, people are misusing. No, don't. I am not criticizing and telling about the people what they are doing in real sense. But as a lifetime, my habit is just watching Facebook and all. But I don't know how to use.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your kind words, ma'am. And more importantly, I understand, because social media एक ऐसी चीज है जो हमने अगर लाइफ में ज्यादा यूज नहीं की है तो obviously it becomes challenging to learn. But there are more than enough platforms, courses available today कि आप kick start कर सकते हो आपका journey at least, right? And I have a lot of programs and courses that I'm happy to offer to you all to just learn how to start using social media. And because we are here together today, at least I'm happy to just, give you access to an ebook जो मैंने लिखा है, which is called 100 Strategies for Building Your Personal Brand on LinkedIn. तो आप वो बुक पढ़ेंगे मैम, तो इसमें इतने इजी स्टेप्स और स्ट्रैटेजीज मैंने आउटलाइन किए हैं कि यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड हाउ LinkedIn works as a platform and you can start using it for your professional advantage at least. So I'll just put up a link over here that y'all can use to just go download the ebook and start learning and using if everyone your desires to learn.
Ma'am,
the
can you share your
platform.
phone number so I can take your any courses as a step by step I can learn social media? Because
Sure, ma'am.
I can, yeah.
Yes. I will leave my number also over here and the link with y'all. 1 second. I'm just pulling up the link so y'all can just scan the QR code and directly, put it up. Shivani, will I be able to share my screen for a quick minute?
Yeah, just give me access. Yes, you can now.
Okay. Let me try. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
मतलब मुझे मतलब अच्छा लगा आपका थॉट प्रोसेस कि आप जो भी पॉइंट्स बोल रही है जो भी, बट एज अ ऑडियंस बस एज अ डिस्कोर्स सुनने की आदत पड़ गई है, तो मतलब एज अ, बट वी नीड प्रैक्टिकल सेशन मैम.
Absolutely,
हम
ma'am.
for
अभी
that,
ये एक घंटे का सेशन जो हमने किया was just an introduction to help you think differently because हम लोग अलग सोचना ही बंद कर दिए हैं आजकल. Well, we don't really get the time or the opportunity to think different or to think about ourselves or think about all the questions that have, seeded today in your mind. And happy to do more in-depth workshops and masterclasses with Shivani ji if everyone is interested in learning these things in detail. But yeah, for now, guys, please just scan the QR code and you can, go and download this ebook. And if you've struggled with using LinkedIn, you can definitely kickstart your journey. And if you
मैम
need in-depth,
मैं आपका
Even
कोर्स करना चाहूंगी, जो भी आपका ये जो भी है, बट
sure.
जो मुझे ऐसे
ma'am, we
टीचर
can
की जरूरत है जो मेरे ऊपर टाइम दे सके इंस्टेड एज अ प्रोफेशनल अपॉर्चुनिटी.
ma'am, we can talk it offline as well. Other people are also waiting. And
Yeah.
you can get in touch with me. I'm also running LinkedIn 100 days posting challenge, where I'm also helping people to optimize their profiles and how you can build your own presence on social media. So please get in touch with me whenever you want. Thank you, ma'am. And Kalpana, you can ask your question.
Thank you so much, Shivani ma'am. Good morning, Tanvi ma'am.
Morning.
I would like to share my gratitude for having such an wonderful, insightful, and thought-provoking session, I must say. So I am working on my course, but today's session, you have given a new perspective to think how to be a thought leader. So
Right.
thank you so much, ma'am. The way you have taken the whole session, that calmness, I am working and teaching and helping people to work on their soft skills. So together with your sharing, I was actually noting down your expression, how you are explaining, and that too without help of any visual aid. So it
Yeah.
is actually appreciating. Thank you so much, ma'am. Looking forward to connect with you on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much, Karan. That's very kind of you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Kalpana. Any other question for Tanvi? Audience?
Yeah, madam, I have
please.
put up a question. Means I missed the name of the creative thought leader.
Oh, yes, of course. I saw your question, sir. So creatorship for thought leaders, right? I'll give you a few examples that I think have done an amazing job. One of the authors, if you've heard of him, his name is Tim Ferriss. You might have at least heard of his book called The 4-Hour Work Week. So he talks about productivity and high performance, nothing that people have not spoken about before, but the way he talks about it is his thought leadership. And he created a brand new movement around it. Then he wrote another book called The 4-Hour Work Week, 4-Hour Chef, 4-Hour Body. So he built a whole ecosystem around his personal brand, right? So he created a brand new way of doing things.
Yeah, he gave the different way of doing it, basically.
Yes. A different take on an existing subject matter is thought leadership.
Yes.
Okay. Another example is a lady called Mel Robbins, MEL Robbins. What she did was she brought in her own brilliant idea of thought leadership of the 5-second rule.
Oh.
And she talks about how to overcome or beat procrastination. Again, procrastination. No rocket science over there. But the way she brought in a step-by-step process or an insight or a philosophy, which was her core thought leadership. And she built a worldwide movement around it. Right? That was her level of influence. A simple idea like a 5-second rule that she built a brand and movement around. Are amazing examples of creators who've created a brand new way of solving boring problems that we all have struggled with.
Yeah.
Few names started hitting my mind. Like Dave Gurji is there, then 10x Grant Cardone is there.
Yeah. Grant Cardone is also a great example. Absolutely, Shivani. I'm just going to quickly share the screen again because someone's requested for the QR code. Here you go, guys.
Any other question from the audience?
Yeah, one question, please. After listening to your beautiful presentation, on this very interesting subject, I want to ask you only one question. From where do you get, this instinct of, influencing others? Of course, it is there, in the human behavior, it is in the human mindset. You want to influence others, but can you elaborate further on this one? From where do you get this, this instinct of, influencing others?
That's a great question, sir. And I can't speak for the society, but I'm going to share my personal belief and perspective on this. Human beings, as you rightly pointed out, have an instinct of helping and sharing, right? Now, the society today has branded that human need, the primal human need for sharing and helping others, as influencing. So it's just calling it by a name. Ultimately, what are you doing? If, I had to distill the essence of everything I spoke about of building influence, is just sharing what you have to benefit others. And that builds an influence on others. The influence built ho jata hai. It's a byproduct. But what are you doing? You focus on what you are doing, which is authentic to your primal human nature. You're just sharing what you have to offer. वो प्रोफेशनली हो सकता है, पर्सनली हो सकता है, स्पिरिचुअल नॉलेज विजडम हो सकता है, सोशल इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है. Influence built हो जाएगा because you're adding value to someone's life, right? That's how I see it.
I would like to add here that you earlier spoke that starting with why, and what's your why to do the things and why you want to do it. So wonderful thing taught by Simon Sinek as well as even Robin Sharma's Who Will Cry When You Die, when it talks about what is your ultimate goal of living this human life. Do you want to live it within a time span of 70 years and pass on, or for another 25 years, as you earlier said, whether
Absolutely,
you
sure.
want to outlive it?
Yes.
That's where you will find your why to do the things that you do and want to do.
Absolutely. And if not today, maybe you're just not ready today. Maybe there are other priorities. Maybe a year down the line, 5 years down the line. But ask the question, why now is so important for you? 5 years down the line is not guaranteed for any one of us.
Yeah, true. Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, Deepak ji.
Yes, Tanvi. So you were speaking on digital presence, being present on the social media. So
Yeah.
just leave LinkedIn apart because LinkedIn is a professional kind of connect, and you can't
Sure.
do much of creative things. I mean, you can do creative in terms of writing kind of a thing, but not in other ways. So if you have to be influencer or you want to be like just be a thought leader on other medias like Facebook and Instagram and other things, do you really do it actually yourself? Or I'm not talking from your perspective, from a starter, from myself as a starter perspective. Should I do it outright myself, or should we just engage a professional who helps in digital marketing?
Okay. Great question, Deepak. I have always had a belief that if you are able to do it yourself, that's the best way because then you are bringing in a level of authenticity to your conversation, which is unique to you. You get to learn the platform, whichever it is, doesn't matter if it's LinkedIn or not, and be able to share your voice on that platform, your message, your thoughts, your ideas, whatever it is. At the same time, you can take help to a certain extent of strategizing and helping them give you clarity on what kind of content. But your thoughts have to be unique to you. And so if you co-create with an external expert who guides you on how to use a specific platform, because there are experts for LinkedIn, there are experts for Instagram, there are experts for YouTube who know how to leverage these platforms to help you reach your visibility goals. But don't completely outsource the content to say them saying, I don't have the time, please manage it for me. Co-create with them.
Yeah, thank you. It was helpful.
Thank you, Tanvi, for adding this insight. I hope many of the audience or many people might be having this question.
Amazing. I'm glad I'm seeing some lovely
Thank you.
comments. Thank you, Shivani, for
Any
having
other
me.
any other question? Thank you, Tanvi. I
I have
thank you
one,
to you.
yeah, just
Yeah,
one,
please
yeah,
go.
I have one
Yeah,
last
please go
question.
ahead.
In the end, you have put up something on the IP, intellectual property. Tanvi?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Where have I
So,
put up?
yeah.
Sorry.
So my work of area or my team works in the area of scientific patents, ideally.
Oh, Okay.
Yeah, and Dr. Mashelkar, he is a pioneer in the patent law in India. He has
All
won
right.
the Haldighati war on the Haldi patent, which was granted to some US companies as well as the basmati rice. And it has
Oh,
led one big thing I should share, that it is a TKDL, Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, our CSIR, our government organization under the Ministry of Science and Technology has created. So before granting any patents in that area, all the patent offices in the world has to look into those databases. And looking at our leadership, around 25 countries have created their own traditional knowledge database before granting the things, because that is the shared knowledge of years together, and then it cannot be patented. Like, so
right.
that was the thing. And it's very nice to attend your thing. I missed first 4 or 5 minutes in the introduction, but I will catch up with Shivani on that. So
Yes.
it was a wonderful thing.
Definitely, you can
Yeah.
check out with the recordings.
Yeah. I will see it in the YouTube also. Thank you very much.
Shailesh, thank you so much for sharing this with me. And I have a very personal interest in this because I'm currently in the process of my legal hearings for 4 patents that we have filed.
Okay,
Right?
like you look into my profile. We are
Yes, I would love to connect with you on
plenty of
LinkedIn.
them basically, and I
Yes,
can connect you to the right legal firm who will help you in that, who are the
right.
pioneer in that work basically.
Absolutely. I'll definitely connect with you on LinkedIn, Shailesh. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanvi, for all the wonderful
you.
insights and bringing new knowledge and terminologies that were really impactful. And look forward to see you again.
Once
Sure.
again, Tanvi, we want to compliment you on a beautiful presentation, excellent presentation on a totally different subject altogether.
Thank you.
All of us want to be influencers in life, but then you have told us, the ways of, reaching out. Yeah, thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you to our lovely audience that make these Saturdays meaningful, learnable, and
Every Saturday.
successful skilling on Saturdays. Thank you, sir, for all your support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care and look forward
Have
to
a
connecting
lovely
soon.
week.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bye.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Have
Yeah.
a lovely weekend, everyone.